This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Just for the Spell of It with Gary Moss. And Gary is on the other end. We are socially distanced by many, many miles. So
yeah,
welcome.
it's a little bit. It's more than 6 feet.
Right, a little bit more than 6 feet.
We're safe.
Okay. So go ahead.
I've been listening to a lot of news this week, last week, every day. You can't get away from it if you're at home and the TV's on. I also have been paying attention to what people do differently. It's like many of my blogs and many of our podcasts, we talk about different systems to learn words and to put them in your memory. And it seems to me that some of the messages that I've provided over and over again. And while repetition is important, and I believe, as I've said before, that the system called spaced repetition is most important with words, sometimes we really have to shake things up. And, there are a lot of what have been called conspiracy theories out there that we don't pay a whole lot of attention to. And if we do, we dismiss them right away as being something put out there by some kind of a crackpot. However, I've been looking at them from a different set of eyes this week, trying to see if there's any good in some of these theories. And what I discovered this week is that if you use something that's very, very weird and different, sometimes it becomes memorable. We've heard about in the area of soldiers and military, things like black ops, for instance. And you don't hear a lot about it because it's sort of secretive. And what I'm going to propose today is that for the benefit of studying and learning words, we might employ some of these secretive types of methods for our own benefit.
Okay.
Things like black ops, but instead of using something that already has a designation, we might give it a different designation or do a playoff on it. So what if I suggested that from now on, we, as word mavens, we associate black ops with the twos. Now, every time we use black ops or hear black ops, it's going to take our thought process to the two-letter words. Now, that might not sound like it's accomplishing anything, so we have to do something along with it. We have to learn all the twos, which I've said time and time again, but now we're going to give it a designation of black ops to make it more important. Then we're going to create a whole lot of other ops, and we'll use the color scheme. So from now on, red ops will refer to stems, and blue ops will refer to anagrams, and green ops will refer to hooks. Now, you can designate your own colors to these, and you can make a whole list of colors and designate them to other parts of speech, parts of the Scrabble game. You get it?
I get it.
Okay. So we're adding another dimension, and maybe it'll help us learn these items a little faster, a little better, a little deeper. Now, the Navy, in its current state, has the Navy SEALs. And you know how the Navy SEALs, they're known to be experts at saving hostages and to breaking up military threats and all of that. Well, we're going to create something that uses all of our senses to attack words. And since Navy SEALs already has a designation, we're going to call our force the NAVYOWLs. And the reason I use owls is that OWL also stands for the official word list.
Okay.
Now, picture yourself as a superhero. You are deemed to be now one of the NAVYOWLs.
Okay.
So you have all the abilities that you need already in you. And as we do these different things with our senses, we are going to build our abilities and our superherodom. We are going to, in fact, become NAVYOWLs. Now let's talk about our senses and how we can use them. Now we want to do things a little differently than we've done in the past, because this difference is going to be so different that it's going to bring attention to the words that we're learning. So this is going to be very game-like, okay?
Okay.
Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a whole atmosphere of night studying. Most of us never study at night. We study during the day when we're the sharpest. And we study in just ordinary, regular ways. We make flashcards or we make a list, and we do these things, but we usually do it while we're sitting in an easy chair, and there's nothing unusual about it. But I'm going to suggest that you night study in different ways. Do you remember when you were a kid, and one of the things that kids generally like to do is they'll make a tent with a blanket hanging from their bed onto a chair, and then they'll get under it and they'll read a comic book, or they'll read something, or maybe a couple kids will get under there and they'll make believe something. Well, here's what I'm suggesting that you try. And I don't really want to use the word try. I want you to do more than try. I want you to actually do it. I'd like you to study at night under a blanket with your flashlight. Now, you can study some of the same things that you created during the day. You can study that word list that you made. You can study the flashcards. Now, you don't have to be under a blanket each time. And the key is to change the situation so that you have different experiences. Study at night at your desk, but in the dark with a flashlight. Got it?
Got it.
You're going to see those words completely differently. When it's highlighted with a flashlight, you're going to focus on that word that you're looking at. Too often, when we're studying lists or flashcards during the day, we see it and then we flip it over and we go to the next one, and we really didn't spend any time focusing or looking at the thing that we're trying to learn. So this is going to create a whole nother way that you see things. And then I'm going to suggest that at night, in the dark, you turn on your computer and you study video flashcards. Now, I've talked about video flashcards, and anyone who doesn't want to take the time or feels that they can't make their own, they're available from me, and all you have to do is send me an email and tell me what it is that you want to study, and I've probably already made it, and I'll be able to negotiate with you for a sale of a set of flashcards. Some of them begin for as little as $3 a set. But the idea with video flashcards at night is the same kind of concept because it's going to change your focus. Now, if you want to make video flashcards, I suggest you do that in daylight, and you can do it. Even though you've never done it before, if you have a computer that has a PowerPoint or a Keynote program on it, you can follow the steps. They're very easy. You make 2 slides for every item you want to learn. On the first slide, and I always put a number at the top of the slide for reference. So on slide number 1, and I'll call it number 1 front, I'll put the letters of the word I'm trying to learn. I'll put the letters alphabetically. So if I was going to do the word later, I would have A, D, L, R, T. And then on the second one, at the top, I'll put flashcard 1 back, because this is the answer side,
Sure.
or you can put 1 answer, and then I would put the word later. Now, because the letters in later can make up other words besides L-A-T-E-R, I would under later, I would probably highlight later, and then under it, I would play alter, A-L-T-E-R, and is T-R-A-L-E a word?
T-R-A-L-E? I don't think so.
Yeah. No. Well, anyways, I would put all of the words that I can make with the letters in later, but highlight later since that's the one that I'm trying to learn on this
Sure.
particular card.
Now,
Now-
do you have to use all the letters in later?
Yes.
Okay, so not
Yeah.
even not a 3-letter word, not a 2-letter word.
No,
Okay.
just an anagram.
Okay,
And you never use any letter more than once unless there were 2 of the same in the original set.
okay.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go on to the next flashcard. Now, there's value in making these flashcards because the more different ways you interact with a set of letters or with a word, that's one more experience for you with that word. The more experiences you have with the word, the more likely you are to remember it. Here's one of the faults of flashcards. We look at it, we know it, we put it aside. We look at it, we know it, we put it aside. We look at it, we don't know it, we keep it in the deck and put it at the end. So the ones that we put on the side because we already know them, they tend to not get reviewed very often. So after a week or a month or a year, you may forget them because you never see them again.
Right.
All right? So you want to give yourself the full experience of experiencing words and seeing them with spaced repetition over and over again, because every time you see it again, it's going to plant it deeper in your memory. Okay?
Makes sense.
Okay, here's another part of our Navy SEALs. We're going to deal with vision.
Okay.
Now, we deal with words that we see all the time, okay? But there's another way to learn using our hearing with the word being out of sight. Not many years ago, Scrabble players who were trying to think of other ways they could learn words, and these were people who were very busy, let's say a truck driver or a pizza maker or a CEO who was at his desk and constantly on the computer or on the telephone. They developed audio flashcards. Now, what's an audio flashcard? An audio flashcard is just what it means. It's a word that we want to learn that is spoken and then spelled on a tape or a CD. So there are a few places, if you went online and you searched for audio flashcards, I can only think of two people that I've ever met who created audio flashcards where you wouldn't have to create them yourself, but you could go to some source. I'd be happy to provide them to you, but I never got into the field of making audio flashcards. I tried them, but not everybody learns by listening. In fact, generally speaking, people are poor listeners. We listen to things all the time, and many of us tune things out all the time. But there are a few of you out there, and I don't know what percentage. I would bet there's a minimum of 10% and maybe higher of people that learn by listening. That's their preferred way of learning. Well, if you're one of those folks, you could use audio flashcards. Now, if you can't find someone to create them for you, if you have a recording device, you can create them for yourself. So here's how I would do an audio flashcard. Now, you might even want to know what it means. So I would say on the tape, flashcard number 1, Ekpwele, Ekpwele. It's a monetary unit of Southeast Asia. And that's it. Now, while I'm driving now I would make, maybe 25 to 50 words on this audio. And if you want, you can pause, you can repeat it, you can do whatever works best for you in terms of listening. Then when you have the tape or the CD completed, you then take it with you in the car or take it with you in your purse with a playing device and some earbuds. So when you're sitting waiting for a doctor's appointment or when you're driving in the car, you can play it back and listen to this audio tape. And as you're listening, in your mind's eye, create a picture of the word that it's spelling to you. Now, I do know several people who have learned tons and tons of words. So this isn't just a made-up idea. It's something that works for some people. And after trying it for a while, if it's working, great. Continue and expand it. If it doesn't work, put it aside and share it with a friend who might be able to use it. Does that sound understandable?
It certainly does, because there are a lot of people who learn well through audio, whether it be, online audio or going and listening to a lecture. I find that I learn better as an adult that way, because I find reading tires my eyes out. But if I hear the words being spoken to me, I tend to be more alert. And I like the idea of being able to use it while you're waiting for an appointment. You're standing in line at the grocery store. You're driving, across town. What a great thing to do. And if you're alone and you can do it, you can, repeat it out loud as well to, gain that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's another thing you can do while you're driving. Think in anagrams. Think in anagrams.
Okay.
Now, where do you get the letters to begin the thought process? Use the street signs and other signs that are passing by as you're driving. So, if you have a street sign that has two parts to it, like I travel a road that's named El Toro, two parts,
okay.
ELTORO. So I just picked the TORO, and what do I have in that? I have root,
right.
ROOT. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say think in anagrams.
Okay.
See something, think about it, find the anagram within it. And this happens pretty quickly because, when you drive by something, you might see it for 5 seconds as you're approaching it, and then whoosh, it's behind you.
Right.
So this is also going to increase the speed at which you think. Now, one thing might happen, and I have to caution you. You have to be careful. Don't get lost in your thoughts where you might have an accident.
Absolutely.
And God forbid, if you have an accident, do not tell the police officer what you were doing.
Absolutely. Don't blame it on Gary Moss either.
No, don't blame it on me. Don't even blame it on Scrabble. I can just see you standing in front of the judge. But, Judge, I was just practicing my anagrams.
Right, exactly.
No sympathy there. Sorry.
Well,
okay.
A lot of these things, and I'm hoping as people are listening to this, they realize that a lot of the ideas that you're giving here are great ways for our kids to increase their vocabularies and to do better in school. Because a lot of us, we've talked about this before. When I was going to school, I never thought about making something that I was learning fun. And we all want to have fun. We all want to sort of play. And if you can turn it into, learning and having fun, it's going to be so much easier and you're going to be so much better for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to empower all the listeners right now that want to use it with their children or with others. I bestow upon you the power to induct any of these other folks into our circle and make them officially Navy Owls. All you have to do is place your right hand on the top of their head and say, I certify you as a Navy Owl. And share all the other information.
And for those of you listening, these are things that my brother Gary has done his whole life. I love it.
I remembered a lot of these things recently when a total stranger popped up on Facebook and said, are you that Mr. Moss? And I said, which Mr. Moss is that? And it turns out she was a fifth grade student in my class at Key Elementary School, Francis Scott Key Elementary School, in 1965 or 66. Turns out she lives out here, and she came across my name on something. Her name is Lori Colburn. If you're listening, Lori, thanks for reminding me of those good times back there. I hope you thought they were good times when you were in my class. And so anyways, it stirred this up. I'm not finished yet. I have a few more ideas for today. The next one I call Get in Touch with Words. This is using your sense of touch. Now, what you need for this is you need a SAND, S-A-N-D, board. You can actually use one of those flat boards that you bake cookies on.
Okay.
And if you use that kind of a board, you don't need to bring in sand. You can use salt or sugar. Put a light coating of salt or sugar on top of the board, or if you're using a sand board, you'd use sand.
Okay.
Now, take the list of words that you want to remember and use your right index finger on whether you're right-handed or left-handed, and then write the word that you want to learn in the sand or in the sugar or in the salt, and feel them. Feel the letters as you're writing them down. Ingrain them into your memory by your sense of touch. Many people learn that way. They have a connection from their finger to their inner brain. And when they close their eyes, they can see the word. You might be one of them. Give it a try. If it works, use it. If it doesn't work, pass it on to someone else. Okay, the next sense is smell. Now you need to find some aromatic recipes in order to do this. And what we're going to do is we're going to bake our words. And we're going to let that wonderful smell come out of the oven while we're baking. And we're going to fashion the dough into letters where they're going to be letter cookies. Now, if you're not a baker and you don't want to go through that whole process, just get yourself in the car and drive to Costco. And in their cookie department, you'll find large plastic jars filled with cookies that are made in the fashion of letters.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. You can go to the store, and I think they now make gummy bears in the shape of letters. You'll find other things along the way that are in the shape of letters. But let's say you're using the cookies. Before you make the words, set the oven at like 250 degrees and warm those cookies up. Hopefully they'll give off some kind of a smell. And if they don't, maybe throw some cinnamon on them before you take them out of the oven. And try to elicit your olfactory nerves in your nose to make the smell connect to the words that you're going to create.
Interesting. So we're going to use all of our senses in some respect.
We are.
Okay.
Yep. The next idea I call the Taste of Vowels. Now, there's a list called Heavy with Vowels. I usually don't start with words less than 5 letters long, but words like O-O-R-I-E, words like A-I-R-I-E, those words are important to know because so many times your rack has all those vowels on the rack and you don't know what to do with them. So a lot of times people take 0 score and they trade them back into the bag. Well, let me tell you a couple things about trading them. When you trade them, you're putting them back in the bag, and chances are on the next turn or the turn after that, you're going to pick them up again. And the reason you were trading them is to get rid of them, but you're only getting rid of them temporarily. If you're really lucky, you won't pick them up all at the same time. But even better than getting a 0 score is if you can get a small score and play off many of those unwanted tiles. And you're not going to be putting them back in the bag for you to pick up later. So I create this activity called the Taste of Vowels, where we're going to create words with letter cookies and then, maybe make out 5 or 10 of those words. Look at them, put it aside. Later on, look at them again. And before you go to bed, eat them with a glass of milk or a cup of coffee.
Ooh, that's the best part.
Yep.
Wow.
And, if you get indigestion, make a list of which words gave you the indigestion so you don't eat them again.
Good advice.
Okay. Now, the last item that I want to talk about today isn't exactly about our senses, but it's something that you've heard used many times, and we're going to put it in a different context. You've heard people say something that's important is location, location, location. Have you heard that?
Oh, I've heard that, yes.
Okay. Well, now let's take it and transpose it to Scrabble. I want you to do these various activities and other learning activities related to words in different locations. Don't just study at your desk. Study in the yard. Study in the laundry room. Study at the beach. Study in the car. Study in the rain. Study under the kitchen table. Do you think any of that would have any effect on what you might be learning?
Oh, absolutely. Because you'll remember certain things because you learned it in the rain, or you learned it hiding under a blanket with a flashlight. And you probably wouldn't think about that prior to trying those different methods. But as you say them, it certainly makes a lot of sense that when you're pondering for something, all of a sudden it's, where did I hear that? Where did I learn that? And then you think of the rain, or you think of the blanket or the darkness, whatever.
When you start using all these words at Scrabble Club, all the words you learned using these different methods, people, their jaws will drop. And they'll say, Karen, how did you learn all that? Now I'm going to caution you. do not tell them.
I can't refer them to this podcast, right?
If you do, they'll look at you like you're some kind of weirdo.
Well, you know what? They might, but it's interesting that you brought up some of these things because I have a friend who is homeschooling her kids, at least for the first semester of school. And one of the things the school district recommended was don't have your kids always sitting in the same place for class. Now, we do if you're in the classroom, but think about what they're saying. Maybe have them at the kitchen table. Then maybe if the weather is nice, take them outside. And you don't necessarily have to, even though you have to have a regiment, you may not want to teach every day from 8 to noon. The next day, you may be teaching later in the day. And when she was telling me about this, I said, well, that takes a lot of work for the parent. She said, it does, but it's interesting how fast her kids are learning, and they want to keep learning.
I'd like to tell you a story that I've shared before. I don't know if I shared it on a podcast, but this came to mind when I was contacted by Lori Coburn. In the 5th grade, there's a lesson in the spelling book where you learn silent letters, like in the words neighbor and way, for instance.
Okay.
And I was pondering how to teach this class, and normally spelling is pretty much right there in front of us. You, on the first day, you write the word 5 times or 10 times,
right.
And then you say the word and you spell the word and this and that. And I thought there was an opportunity here. So what I did is I made my own list of 10 spelling words. And my list, these were not words at all. They're just nonsense words. And I gave them to the kids on day 1. And I said, every letter in the word is silent. Every letter. So the first one was spelled with the letters Sturnock. Can you picture that?
Okay, say that one again.
Sturnock. That's how the letters were in the word. But everything's silent. Yeah. So I said it's pronounced Grehaunt. That's how you say it.
Okay. Grehaunt. All right.
Grehaunt. So during the test, when I said Grehaunt, what would you write down?
Back in the day.
No, you would have to write down Sturnock.
Yeah.
Okay, so it makes no sense at all, does it?
No.
It's an exercise in just pure memory.
Yeah.
When you hear Grehaunt, you write down Sturnock. On my test at the end of the week, now the average score in the class on a final test was usually around 85%. On this test, with all these dumb, made-up words, what was this final class average?
90%?
Higher, 98%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was so different and so stupid that everyone did it, and they remembered it. It was just unbelievable. So it's what you have your mind are and what your intention is. everybody wanted to get 100% on that test.
Absolutely.
On the normal set of words, they didn't care as much, or they felt, oh, I already know that, and then they choked on the last day of the test. The way we learn is so unusual, and it's so individualized, and it's all about motivation in doing things. And so these crazy ideas I gave to you, they're not crazy about studying, but they're different enough to put a different way you look at things, and it will elicit a different response.
How interesting.
Okay. I should have probably done my master's thesis on this kind of stuff, but I didn't think about it at the time. Maybe I'll go back and take my doctorate now.
Well, it's never too late. And then I can call you Dr. Gary.
And maybe some of the parents out there that are listening to this will use some of these crazy ideas and create more of their own crazy ideas to help themselves with learning Scrabble words or helping their kids study at home.
Sounds like a plan. Wow.
Okay, well, I'm done.
It's raining here, so I'm going to go outside and learn some words. And
yeah, good.
I'll play them against you when we play Words with Friends, okay?
Excellent.
All right.
Well, have a good week and stay safe.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.